Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hello, homeschoolers. Welcome back to another episode of Homeschool is a Work of Heart. Have you left a review? I could really use some updated reviews. I think our last comment was placed on the podcast in July of last year. So if you are enjoying these episodes, it would be the greatest form of a compliment and encouragement. I read all of them and it really warms my heart. So please, if you wouldn't mind, as well, if this one speaks to you this week, be sure to share it with a friend. All right, I am so glad you're here today because I want to talk about something that had happened this past week with one of our WOW Writers Clubhouse meetings. These meetings are virtual meetings that we host on Zoom or Google Meet. They're hour-long kind of group hangout sessions that my team and I host daily for all of our young writers that are in our WOW Writers Clubhouse. We know that writers of every age need support, but especially students, children. And it's just a fact that as writers, we all can get stuck in various places within the complex writing process. So these clubhouse meetings allow students a safe place where they can get help from us in real time while sharing their progress. Whether it be one week they could share some research that they found or how their notes are coming along, outlines, rough drafts, so on and so forth. We are now 2 months deep in our spring semester. And some students are still remaining quiet little mice. And they show up, they come to these classes. We ask them to come once a week. Some come multiple times a week. But some of these quiet little mice, they just want to listen. They're not ready to participate for all kinds of reasons. And that's fine. But my goal is to prove we are a safe place and encourage them to work on bravery and courage, because being able to speak in front of others is a great way to practice the language, of course, but also to put our thoughts out into the world and be able to take back what's received when we share our thoughts. Sometimes good, sometimes maybe it feels a little defeating, but that's all part of life. So we want them to know it's a very safe place to do that. So anyway, this past week, one of our young writers had signed up to read her explanatory introductory paragraph. And she did so clearly and confidently. And when she was finished, the group responded like we always do. There were several encouraging words. They like to hit the little reactions that show a heart or the clapping hands. There were some specific compliments over in the chat box about what they liked or what they thought she had done really well. I offered a suggestion on how she might cite one of her sources a little better. It was nothing dramatic. I mean, these are just day-by-day occurrences. But what did happen next was fascinating, and it always happens. It just takes time. But there was a student who I know has been very shy and not yet willing to share until this week. And all of a sudden, I said, so-and-so, did you want to share? And this student said yes, and actually read one of his paragraphs. In fact, his was a level 1, which is a single paragraph, so he read the whole thing. This was amazing to me because when it happens, every time it gives me such great joy. Every time a new student has the courage or the bravery to do this. And what we see is as the semester goes on, more and more students are able to ask and then share and speak out loud, it's amazing. But I want you to notice that nothing about the assignment changed and nothing about the lesson changed. It's always about the environment. And over time, it's the environment that shifts. What felt a little daunting or uncertain feels warmer, it feels safer, it feels successful. And my firsthand experience has taught me this, that when students see other students their age succeeding and flourishing, they catch the bug. It's contagious. And in those moments, I just know it's a thought that's happening in their own brain that is something like, maybe I can do this too. And so when I was on a morning walk before it hit 90 degrees, it's way too hot right now in Southern California. It's winter. All right, it's just about spring, but it shouldn't be this hot. Anyway, I was listening to Andrew Huberman. Dr. Huberman is a Stanford doctor of ophthalmology. He hosts a podcast. I've shared him before, but it was who he was interviewing, Dr. Richard Davidson, that really caught my eye, or I should say my ear. Anyway, he's authored a book called Born to Flourish, and it's based on a lot of research that he's done. I've not read the book yet, but it is on my list. I loved the research he was talking about, and his whole work is focused on human flourishing, which I am all about that. And one of the most encouraging and exciting discoveries that he was sharing in this podcast episode is that flourishing is not fixed and it is contagious and easier to get to than we even think. So that was fascinating in a listen, and it is what inspired this week's podcast. So I'm going to share a few of the things that I gleaned from this podcast episode, and I will link it for you in case you want to hear his whole thing. But as he was sharing his findings, I'm like on my walk, briskly walking, and I'm like nodding my head up and down. I'm like, I knew it. I totally knew this. I just didn't know that it could be backed with scientific research, but I've been researching kids for 30 years now, and I 100% believe what his findings are showing. So today I'm going to talk about 3 ideas that I took away from that episode, and then once I read the book, I'll let you know if I thought it was really great, if there's anything else I need to add in there for you. But I think you are going to find this incredibly helpful, and I'm here for you, my homeschool buddy, 100%. So the first idea I have written down here is flourishing is a skill that can be developed. Okay, I love this because many people think confidence, resilience, optimism, that those are personality traits. And there may be something to that, but it's not as simple as you either have those qualities or you don't. His research is suggesting something very different, and that is that the brain is capable of changing throughout life. And this is all about neuroplasticity. I don't know, when you were growing up, I don't know if people still say it today, but when I was growing up, people said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Am I just aging myself, by the way? I could be. Maybe you have not grown up hearing that, but I heard that. I heard other things like once a cheater, always a cheater. Once an addict, always an addict. But science is proving that's not true because of neuroplasticity. Well, at least it doesn't have to be true. People, of course, can continue making poor choices their whole lives. It is more work to change than it is to stay the same. So, okay, there's that. I'll give you that. But when we choose to practice certain habits repeatedly, the neural circuits that are in our brains connect to those habits and they will be strengthened. So we can strengthen good habits. We can strengthen our resilience muscles, our confidence muscles, our optimism. All of that absolutely are things we can work on. Flourishing is not something that we're simply born with and we have it or we don't have it. It is something we can learn, and it is something we can teach our children, just like reading or writing or how to solve a math problem, which, by the way, okay, I'm going to do what we teachers used to call a chicken walk. I'm going to go off path right now for a second. I'm reading a really clever novel right now that a friend suggested, and it's called The Names. The author is Florence Knapp, I believe. Anyway, spelled Knapp. I'll link it as well. But the storyline is fascinating. It is all about life-altering choices that happen through 3 alternate timelines that the book keeps moving through. And all of these different timelines are triggered by a mother's decision on her newborn son's first name. It's very clever, very clever. Thank you, Lori. Anyway, all that to say, the story is set in England. And in England, do you know they don't say math? They say maths. So they would have just said, like solving a maths problem, plural. It gets me every time I hear it. Anyway, I know, I totally digressed. Anyway, when children do practice focusing their attention and working through the challenges and recognizing progress, because you're going to be pointing it out to them, they will strengthen those parts of the brain that's associated with the resilience, the overall well-being. People who flourish in life, they tend to be those confident, resilient, and often optimistic people. So yes, we want to help our children do that. We want to help them build the skills that teach them to be flourishers in life. Okay, so I thought that was a really good idea that he mentioned. The second idea that I gleaned from that podcast was how we mirror the emotional climate that's around us. And this is another powerful insight from the research. Emotions do spread through individuals and groups. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as emotional contagion. Sounds terrible, but it's true. We can catch other people's emotions. And it reminds me of something I learned also from Brooke Castillo, Jody Moore. These are life coaches I follow, and they teach also that people naturally mirror the emotional energy around them. And think about it. It's true. If someone gives another person a dirty look, they often get a dirty look back. Like, what? We mirror this. Or if someone smiles in line next to you and then says something really kind, you mirror that back. Oh, thank you. And you smile, right? You return the kindness. And while I know the world is changing and a lot of people are living in fear, I really hope that does not take hold. That is not how we are to live. And I hope human kindness survives and thrives. Anyway, mirroring also happens in our homes. So think about a time, maybe you've never done this, but I have, where I've just approached a school day. I'm overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel rushed maybe. Maybe I'm frustrated by something else. It has nothing to do with the kids, but it's how I'm coming off, right? It's my emotions. And I know personally my boys would respond to that. And sometimes out of care, like, are you okay, mommy? But other times they too then would be stressed or feel rushed or feel frustrated. And in my experience and in Davidson's research, this is what people do. We mirror our feelings back and forth to one another. So if I come off as tense and like everything feels heavy and daunting, then boom, I've just created that in our space. It's just what we do. We're human beings. It's not right or wrong. It's just, it is. And just notice it, because we naturally pick up on the emotional tones around us. But the good news is we can change it. And we need to just be aware that children are especially sensitive to it. Now, they may not be able to express it with words, but their behavior sometimes can show it. So pay close attention to those things. We also can catch it and take a deep breath. We need to have the tools that we know what to do. Maybe we need to go for a walk. Maybe we need to do deep breathing exercises. But when we instead can approach our learning with calm confidence, maybe some curiosity, that tone also will spread. So if I come in and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited. We are going to learn a lot today. This is fascinating. We're going to talk about photosynthesis, and I have a really fun experiment that we're going to do. I bought these flowers, da 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 da. All of a sudden, our children are going to pick up on that emotional tone, and they're going to be like, oh, maybe this is going to be fun. Maybe she's right. Maybe science is going to be great today. So just keep that in mind. I also think that something worth pointing out is that when children feel like things are going to be successful for them, let's just say they're seeing another child succeeding, it really does build that in them. It's that whole flourishing is contagious idea. And this isn't just in school things. This could be in sports, in relationship building. Sometimes they're watching how their siblings make new friends, and then they're noticing that. But this is what I want to point out. What they're not thinking is, wow, my sibling is amazing at that skill. Or, wow, that child is so good at kicking the soccer ball. Or, that child's such a great writer. Nope. You know what kids are thinking? They're thinking, oh, that child is like me. And if he can do it or she can do that, I think maybe I can do that too. It's making something feel possible. And it's one reason environments where children do see other children learning and growing can be so powerful. I know it's a huge part of why our Wow Writers Clubhouse is so successful. Success becomes visible to others, and once other children see it, they begin to believe it might just be possible for them too. Okay? Third and final idea I wanted to share with you this week is that small wins change the brain. So he really went into the importance of the small wins because our brains naturally focus on negative experiences, which that surprises a lot of people. And yet I'm not sure that it should surprise us. Our most primal part of our brain has a job of keeping us alive. And so it's always doing one of two things. It's looking at our environment and it's judging, as in evaluating. Am I safe? Is this going to hurt? Is somebody after me? And if there is a negative thing happening, the next thing we do is go into, how do I solve for this? How do I create a solution? And I talked about this in another podcast as well. It's very normal. So we do focus on negative experiences as a way of self-preservation. And of course, psychologists have a name for it. It's called the negativity bias. So we just want to be aware of that, because what we can do intentionally with our prefrontal cortex is notice and reinforce positive experiences, especially with our children. We want to help our kids strengthen a different pattern in the brain, and it takes time, and it has to happen in very small little increments. So this often for you is going to look like recognizing tiny little small moments of progress in their school day, in their sports experiences, in their building of new friendships. Not perfection, never perfection. Progress, just little bits of progress. Maybe you noticed they stayed focused longer today than they did yesterday. Tell them that. Maybe they wrote a sentence, it was so clear. Tell them that. Maybe they were stuck, they were angry, and they tried again. Point it out to them. When those little moments are noticed and acknowledged, something important happens. Children begin to see themselves as capable people. And once they begin to believe that they are capable, then they're going to feel more motivated, more confident, more resilient. See how it all is tied together? it's going to just lead to natural growth. And you guessed it, they are going to flourish. And that's what we want for them. I think about all of this often, especially when I'm working with children. I believe children rarely flourish in isolation. I don't think people do in general. I think children flourish when they see others flourishing around them. I think we all do. I think we flourish when encouragement is consistent. And it's why, even in our programs, we ask our parent educators to work alongside us and their kiddos. Our programs are not just a plug and play, sit your kid in front of a computer. No. Our digital products are meant to teach parents and their children together like a team. We help all of you flourish. And when you're flourishing, we're flourishing. It's amazing. But they do flourish when effort is recognized, when someone believes in them and sees their progress, points out how possible it is. And the beautiful thing about flourishing is that once it begins to grow in one person, it often spreads to others. I see this. I watch one child share her work, and then another child shows up, another kid raising their hand, and then the next week, someone new's deciding to try. And before long, something wonderful has taken hold. And I call it flourishing. And it is contagious, so let's catch it. And not just that, let's spread it far and wide. Are you up for the challenge? I hope so. I want your world to flourish. I want your children to flourish. And I appreciate you listening. Right on. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.